Welcome back to the Writers Unblocked Artist Interview Series, everybody. Today, I am proud to announce that we have with us the voice acting aficionado, Rambling Rob. Rob, how are you doing today?
Oh, not so bad yourself. Thanks for having me.
All right. So, real quick, if you want to just introduce yourself to the audience and everybody know who you are, what you do, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, okay. I'm Rob. I'm originally from Ireland. I go by Rambling Rob online because I like to ramble on about comic books or any of my general interests. But yeah, I've been voice acting now for I think it's 7 or 8 years.
Wow.
Still plugging away. It's I love it, but I mean it's hard work to kind of really
Mhm.
break into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's not really kind of good talking about myself. Usually I can answer questions, but when
Yeah,
it's like,
it's tough.
you know,
It's tough for a lot of people because there's so much. I mean, like, where do you even start? Well, like, first off, I didn't even know about the moving from Ireland part. What brought you from Ireland to here?
um, well, first thing was kind of I'm from a small town in the southeast of Ireland, and
Okay.
it being so any kind of real opportunities are in Dublin.
Yeah.
Dublin's a two and
Yeah.
a half hour drive, but the price of Dublin, you've seen Toronto's expensive. Dublin is a whole other level.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
I just kind of I wanted to get out of Ireland,
Hmm.
because it's funny. Anybody who visits Ireland thinks it's the nicest country in the world.
Really?
But when you grow up there,
Hmm.
like if you don't play sports,
Hmm.
there's not a lot to do, especially when you're from a
Okay.
small rural town. Like we had
Yeah.
three Gaelic football pitches, and then we got six more, and there was places you could do hurling, and
Jesus.
then pubs. But that's
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yeah.
there was no, and I wasn't a sports guy. I liked comic books, I liked cartoons, I liked
Yep.
heavy metal, like wrestling, those things, and they
Yeah.
weren't there. And yeah, off to the Great White North.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had a 5 hour layover in Dublin, and I only had enough. I could only see Ireland from, from behind the 2 inch thick glass window. And my experience of Ireland was just a pint of Guinness at 5 in the morning, and that was about it. You
That's
know,
probably the way a lot of Irish people spend their mornings,
yeah,
if
yeah.
with the stereotypes. But if you do go back to Ireland, I would recommend Galway.
Oh,
Galway's
oh
an
yeah. I
artist sound.
totally plan
It's
on going back
beautiful.
to.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
Artists,
yeah.
musicians.
Yeah.
Galway's the way to go.
In terms of wrestling, you guys have some good representation now in WWE.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. Like back in, because it's funny, and I know everyone has this one, but this is genuine. I went to college with Sheamus's first cousin, and we used to
Wow.
be really good friends.
Yeah.
But then I think it kind of turned. It
Mhm.
went sour when one time I said to him, "Kids, Justin was a lovely guy, but he was my height. Like he was like 5'9". He
Yeah.
was short,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, so Seamus is your first cousin."
Yeah, the genes are kind of wonky there.
Yeah, that, and I think that was the beginning of the end
Yeah,
of our friendship.
yeah,
I didn't mean anything by it. It's just like
yeah,
Seamus is colossal, and then
yeah.
but
But there's always some like stereotypes when it comes to like like Irish people, even like Scottish. Like Seamus looks, with the pale skin and the red hair, but then you look at somebody like Lyra Valkyria or Finn Balor, and you're like,
Mhm.
they like if they didn't speak, I would never know. You
Yeah,
know,
like, and that's the
you know.
thing. I think at that time, especially in WWE, it stereotype sells. And Sheamus's, I think Sheamus's name is, I think it's Kieran. I don't even think it's Sheamus.
Probably
But
not.
like, the Celtic Cross was his
Uh-huh.
finisher,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he was like, we're not all that pale, and
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
stereotypes of what people know. Like he
yeah,
was
definitely.
the giant Lucky Charms guy.
Yeah,
So that's
right,
what
right,
sold.
right. And this is the conversation for another time because I'm going to be starting to do some more wrestling content because just as an adult as a wrestling fan you're in it for the storylines, for the creativity, for the arcs, where people are
Exactly.
going,
Exactly. Like you
like
don't know as a kid, like when you play wrestle, you'd like
mhm.
put them in the ankle lock and twist
Yeah,
it. But
yeah,
that's not what it is. It's like it's the performance. It's like, okay,
hmm,
we gotta work together, you
yeah,
gotta sell this. And
hmm,
also, like, remember when they'd have cops and they
yeah,
like the Stone Cold would assault these police
right,
officers.
right,
No legal consequences
yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah, yeah.
It's just
We're
its
like
own thing.
breaking kayfabe, we're past the era where people, are battling, is this real or is it fake?
Yeah,
Everybody knows that it's fake. It's
yeah.
what you do with the talent, because if it was real, you couldn't have these matches for longer than like 30 seconds.
No, no,
The
like
idea
the
is to
big
sell
show
your
and the
ass
great.
off, yeah, so people can,
Exactly.
can perform as well, but at the same time make sure that your opponent is as safe as possible. Like we all know
Exactly.
that. I call it like Cirque du Soleil with action,
Yeah,
almost.
exactly. Like
I mean,
you even there's because YouTube you end up deep diving all these videos and clips,
mhm,
but there's one I remember. It was I think when it in the midst of WCW and ECW against
mhm.
WWF,
Yep.
and they were all coming in doing their big finishers, and Undertaker was on the ground. There was a steel chair on the mat, and
Mhm.
I think Angle
Mhm.
was angling slam Big Show, but you just
Yeah.
see Undertaker put his leg out and
Yep.
slide the chair out of the way
Yep.
because he knew, okay, if he lands on that, he's
hmm
screwed. And it's
Yeah.
it's there's so much more to it. And I
Yeah.
think because people are very dismissive of the sport,
hmm
but if you watch it, like you said, like it's a performance, and you
Yeah.
see everything that goes on in the
hmm
background. It's
Yep.
fascinating.
It is.
It really is.
It's
Yeah.
it's such a unique work of art, which is why Raw is like, the longest weekly episodic
Mhm.
television series in history.
Yeah.
Like it really is astounding. Yeah, this is a conversation I
Yeah.
definitely want to have. Maybe for a later time. So back to you and what you do. Um, so your long history of voice acting, how did you come about deciding that this is what I want to do?
Mm.
It
I
might not
don't.
have been like a snap decision, but it might have just kind of like,
Um.
metastasized over time.
Yeah, I think it was a kid because I converted my closet in Ireland to like my
Did
first
the
recording
same
booth,
thing.
know,
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
And it was just that because when I started out, I was doing voices for Lego anim stop motions on
I
YouTube.
saw the Batman one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's been Batman, like
Yep.
Red Skull ones, like
Yep.
Crossbones, all these, and like growing up, like even still now, like the comic books, like just read and getting, and I just remember, like some of the guys I did voices for were maybe like 12 years old, but
Okay.
just the
Mm.
feeling of like, oh, I love doing this, just
Yeah.
the joy of
hmm
doing it. Excuse me, and even on such a small scale, and I
Yeah.
kind of knew this is the only job that I would truly be happy doing.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
it's like another job would be paying the bills or whatever, but this is something
hmm
because I do classes occasionally as well, and it's even just the
Okay.
joy of teaching it and talking about it. I
Yep.
don't know, I love it, and I just kind of made the
Yeah.
decision like this is the everything else is a job. This is
hmm
the career I want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Did you hear like voice actors and decide, okay, this is what I want to do? Or did somebody tell you that you had a good voice or you could do characters or impressions?
Um, Well, see, again, it comes from the small town thing. Like, oh,
hmm
oh, you do funny voices.
Yeah.
It's like it's not. That's not what it
Yeah.
is. And it's like, um, I think it was a case of wanting to do it. Like my
hmm
inspiration was
Yep.
the Transformers movie from 1986,
Yep.
and I just even today.
Mm.
I must have watched that movie 1,000 times, but I get the butterflies like when
Yeah.
Prime shows up and Unicron, just it's just all
Oh,
of it,
yeah.
and it's like I want to be a part of something like that. I
Yeah.
want to do
Yeah.
something that gives someone butterflies, and that's
Yeah.
just kind of when I decided, and
Yeah.
yeah, to just give it a go. you
Yeah,
know
absolutely. And, just shows like that with Transformers, you could be over the top with your voices. And
yeah,
I listened, because you did a couple Spider-Man movies, I think as you alluded to, where you were like the lizard, the voice of the lizard,
yeah.
and I think you the other one, Uncle
Green
Ben.
Uncle Ben was the
Yep.
first was Power and Responsibility, and then the sequel
Yep.
was Back to Basics. I did the
Yeah.
vocal effects for the lizards, and
hmm
then I did the Green Goblin,
Yep.
uh, the voiceover for him.
Yep. And then there was another video, I think a couple years ago, where you just kind of like sped like went through a few like Spider-Man characters, and one
Oh
of
yeah,
them
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
one of them was Venom, and I can totally hear Optimus Prime in that,
Yeah, because
in
it's a
that
case
deep,
of you find it there's the range of them. Like once you hear
hmm
someone's
hmm
voice or their kind of their signature thing, there's
hmm
always you do a twist on it. Like let's say look
hmm
at Joker, Mark Hamill in the Joker. He
Yeah.
did Hobgoblin in the Spider-Man series in the 90s. And when
Okay.
you listen to Hobgoblin,
Hmm.
you hear the Joker. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
anything, you know,
Hmm.
like it's but then you have people whose range is just like you look at Frank Welker, like the guy who
Hmm.
was Fred from Scooby Doo, and he
Yep.
was Scooby Doo. He was
Hmm.
Slimer. He was
Yep.
one of the, I think, Ray of the Ghostbusters. And yeah, you have that like the deep ones. It can be
Mhm.
definitely you wear. It's like a cover band or a
Yeah.
musician. You wear your influences on your
Yeah.
sleeve too. You know.
Right. Now, so you've done obviously established characters, whether they've been Alfred or, like anybody Marvel and DC, but when you're doing things like, say you're doing a video game where it's a completely
Mhm.
original character, how do you find that character? What's your process to figuring out what this character sounds like, their mannerisms, their little cadences? What's your process for that?
Um, Usually I like to look at a picture. I kind of
Okay.
like if I have a picture, it's kind of
Mm.
the stance. Like let's say
Yep.
there was one my first video game was The Forbidden Arts by Stingbot Games, and it was a Minotaur.
Mm.
Was one of the characters. So like, you know, you got the big traps and the tusks and
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
those
Yeah.
kind of things, or
Mhm.
just you know, they're or even the description of the character, let's say their bio. What I
Yeah.
try and find is, let's say, because it's even, I think sometimes what people forgetting with voice acting, there's the archetype, there's the inspiration, and then there's
Hmm.
an impression.
Sure.
All of these things are different.
Yep.
Impressions and voice acting are like boxing and UFC, same planet,
Hmm.
different countries. It
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they're not like, I cannot do impressions. I can
Yeah.
do like impressions of cartoon characters, but I can't start talking like
Mm.
uh,
Yeah, like
Jake
some
Gyllenhaal or anything. Like
right,
I
right.
can't do that.
Yeah.
So whereas you look at then is okay, if you have an old like Monty Burns type thing, again, you
Hmm.
look at how he carries himself, the way he talks, the
Hmm.
maybe like
Hmm.
the scowl, and just you
Yeah.
know that's the mirror is your best friend with this, because you
No,
can look
yeah,
like a complete
absolutely.
idiot
Yeah.
and you're it's not going to be seen. You know,
But
so
but it's so refreshing like when you're looking at other people doing voice acting. Like one of my favorite people to watch voice acting, two people, Bradley Cooper and Robin Williams, because you see like when they're assuming those voices that
mhm.
they put their whole body language into it.
Yeah,
Their body moves with it. Like watching Bradley Cooper record for Rocket is like one of my favorite things to watch because he's so into it, and that's the only way that your voice is gonna come out.
exactly.
Oh.
It's like I mean, if you're working like I used to work in a call center or customer care one, and it's a
Mhm.
case of if you're sitting back like this, the
Yeah.
customer hears you talking like,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, how can I help? And it's the same thing with voice acting. Like if
Yeah.
you're pissed off with someone and you're
Hmm.
kind of standing like, oh, you're never gonna get away. It's like you're never gonna get away. Like you have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
move into it
Yeah.
because you hear
Hmm.
the movement, as weird
Yeah.
as it sounds, you know?
I almost hope that one of these days they invent like a mic that I could just like pin onto my lapel and have the same quality as like a regular condenser mic. Because I get so animated, but I'm boxed into this little like, closet of a room. And then at the same time, I have to still maintain myself like right
Yeah,
here. And I'm
yeah,
like, I would be moving all over this room if I could with like how animated I can get. But I have to
yeah.
just stay right here. And, sometimes it's a little constraining, but at the same time, you know, it's still, we still get done what we need to get done.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. But so any kind of bad habit that just like really like gets under your skin, that like people come in from like with that you're working with and you're trying to like, help them. For me, it's something so natural that people do is vocal fry. Vocal fry when they talk in that lower tone and it's just kind of like raspy like this and it's like it sounds like it's just like popping like in their voice. When you speak like that, you're actually like slamming your vocal cords together. And a lot of like I feel like a lot of like preppy girls are like, oh my God. And I hear that. And it's just so unhealthy and it just gets under my skin. It's like it's worse than nails on a chalkboard. It's actually being mean to nails on a chalkboard. But like anything that you notice that like when people come in that like, really common things that they have to fix. Because a lot of it is like, it's like yoga. It's like body and vocal, voice awareness. There are a
Mhm.
lot of like bad habits that people have just kind of instilled in them that they don't realize that they have to that they've been doing, for a long time. A lot of, breathing too, knowing.
Um, hmm. Well, see, because I mean, I've being in the same booth as someone is something I've never done. You know, it's like you're on a Zoom
Okay.
call. I haven't really
Yep.
heard these things. I
Gotcha.
know just from listening to, let's say, recordings from
Hmm.
students and stuff, it's maybe the, those like dry out your mouth. You
Yeah,
gotta dry out
yeah,
your mouth.
yeah, yeah.
Like I
Yeah,
don't
yep.
get the fish off the plate of water, like that
Yep.
kind of thing, or knowing about the plosions and
Yep.
the
Yep.
those. But I suppose that stuff like you learn.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't really know. Again, like I haven't been in studios with people to kind of see
Mhm.
that bad. I know
Mhm.
myself. I was brutal for the peas
Yeah.
and the buzz. But
Yep.
again,
Yeah.
it's like you get a book, you learn not to do it, and
Hmm.
that. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Not
Yeah.
not nothing.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Maybe it's the clicking that
Oh
hit that.
God, that is one of the worst things. It's
Uh,
just I could never do like ASMR or anything like that. Real quick, last thing that we always ask people on this channel is this whole brand is about creativity and
mhm.
figuring out ways to explore that creativity and to push through that creativity block, whether it's writer's block or whatever. When you have those moments, those lapses in creativity, and you can't get past, like, is there anything that you do? Like, do you go for a walk? Do you kind of like set your mind down to it? Do you just kind of put it aside? Like, what's your process to kind of get through that creativity block?
Um, if I'm having trouble kind of doing the performance I feel like I can do,
Mm-hmm.
I'll record 3 takes,
Hmm.
leave it for a day,
Yep.
come back, listen to it, and then in that day I'm away, listen to songs that give me the butterflies. So the
Yep.
Transformer soundtrack goes on. You hear
Oh,
Stan
that's
Bush, all
awesome.
that does
Yep.
but just generally taking a step back because it's
Hmm.
like anything when when that's all you're about,
Hmm.
it'll drive you insane. Take a walk, like you said, like take a walk, take a break.
Yep.
Never, if you have an audition that's doing a week,
Hmm.
start working on it right away
Yeah.
because you could get an idea, and it's happened to me. You send it off, you're like, oh,
Yep. Yep.
that was the voice,
Hmm.
and you can't go back. Actually, hey, here's another one because
Yeah.
it's gone. Like
Hmm.
it's that's I don't know. Just take your time.
Yeah.
Don't
No.
don't rush with it.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things because there's so many people that just want to get it done, and they get so frustrated that they're willing to sacrifice quality for just expediency, and that's just
Yeah,
that's
and
that's
like
just
that's the
silly.
thing. If it's quality over quantity. That's
Yeah.
that's the thing. And just a case of, I know I've said it a few times throughout this, but knowing your range,
Hmm.
what you can do and what you can't do,
Hmm.
will save your esteem
Hmm.
and your energy. So,
Hmm.
like when I first started, I thought I could voice everything,
Hmm. Yeah.
and then I read you can't. No one can.
Right.
But I would get down on myself because I didn't get it, but because I
Hmm.
can't do it,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, hopefully like actors and voice actors themselves, like are some of the most self-aware people if they do it right. If they really understand, like, this is what I can and can't do. These are my limitations, and that's just it is what it is.
Yep.
Um, but that's all the time that we have for this interview right now. Stay tuned later on for a potential wrestling podcast because now that's a thing. Um, Rob, where can people find you?
On YouTube mostly. Again, it's comic book related.
Mhm.
My Instagram, Rambling Rob, look for the Red Ape. If anybody's looking for classes or just advice, just shoot me a message. I do reply.
Sounds good. And
Yeah.
I'll post all those links down in the description below. But if there's nothing else, Rambling Rob, it was amazing having you. I look forward to all the other stuff that you're going to be doing in the future. We'll keep an eye out on your IMDb page, so it's because it's ever growing. But yeah, all the links are going to be down there if you're looking for any classes or anything, or just even just good examples on what proper voice acting is. Look to Rambling Rob. Um, Thanks so much, Rob. It was a great, great conversation. I look forward to having you on something in the future, and we'll be in touch. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.